When there is an ending, there was a beginning. Every victim has a picture to paint. Every true crime has its time and place. Please join our Mja Podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Does. Welcome to our Mja Podcast. This series, A True Conspiracy. This is Chapter 2, Part A, The Mysterious Death of Jessica Elliott. A true conspiracy is a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful by using deception. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. We are coming to you from our home office in Plattsburgh, New York. Joining us will be Diana Elliott, who is the mother of Jessica Elliott. Welcome to Indiana. On December 30th, 2015, 37-year-old Jessica Elliott, a mother of two, died at St. Vincent's Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana. The story begins in Richmond, Indiana, in the home of Jessica Elliott and her live-in boyfriend, Curtis Smith. The statements made by Curtis Smith. In the early morning hours of December 30th, 2015, Jessica Elliott and Curtis Smith were having an argument. Curtis Smith claims he locked himself in the bathroom to get away from Jessica because she was the aggressor. Curtis Smith admitted to manhandling Miss Elliott during the argument to get away from her. When things become quiet, Smith came out of the bathroom and found Jessica unresponsive, laying on the floor. Smith called 911, and when the EMTs and the police arrived, Curtis Smith claimed that Jessica took an overdose of Xanax. The EMTs rushed Jessica Elliott to Reed Hospital in Richmond, Indiana. Because of the info given by Curtis Smith, the EMTs, the hospital staff, was treating Miss Elliott for a drug overdose. After 9 hours, Jessica Elliott wasn't responding to treatment at Reed Hospital. It was then Jessica was given a CAT scan. The CAT scan showed that Jessica Elliott had 2 different types of hematomas and her brain was bleeding in 2 places. It was then Reed Hospital transferred Miss Elliott to St. Vincent's Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is about 92 miles away. It was there a forensic nurse noticed injuries to Miss Elliott that was consistent with being abused. At this time, it had been about 13 hours where Miss Elliott's brain injuries hadn't been treated and Jessica Elliott was brain dead. Let's take a short pause for the cause, and when we return, it only gets more mysterious with the story about the pathologist that conducted the autopsy on Jessica Elliott. Be back in a moment. Mja would like to give a special shout out to Shiloh's Restaurant, located at 202 Central Street in Woodsville, New Hampshire. Mja and groups like ours have eaten there several times. The food is excellent and they serve alcohol. The service is Class A and the prices are fair. It has great atmosphere and it's kid friendly. Once again, that's Shiloh's Restaurant, located in Woodsville, New Hampshire. Please check it out. Welcome back to our Mja Podcast, the series, A True Conspiracy. This is Chapter 2, Part A, The Mysterious Death of Jessica Elliott. Pathologist Dr. John Cavadall conducted the autopsy on Jessica Elliott in Indianapolis, Indiana, located in Marion County. His findings were Miss Elliott died due to complications of the 2 hematomas, but ruled her cause of death as undetermined. What is also very interesting in the tox report, it states Miss Elliott had no Xanax in her system. There was never an aggressive investigation done by the Richmond, Indiana Police Department into the death of 37-year-old Jessica Elliott, a mother of two. The pathologist blames the police for not giving him a case file to work from to conduct his own investigation, claiming he didn't have all the facts. But I don't care what the pathologist says because I am experienced enough to know she could have only gotten those injuries by being abused. Curtis Smith hasn't been charged with anything, even though he misled the EMTs, the police, and the hospital, claiming Miss Elliott took a drug overdose of Xanax and none was found in her system. Smith also admitted to manhandling Miss Elliott. Many say that is because Smith's family is highly connected with the Richmond Police Department, the County Sheriff's Department, and the Prosecutor's Office. Richmond, Indiana Police Department excuses of why they can't arrest Curtis Smith. A. It would be double jeopardy. Arresting Smith isn't double jeopardy. B. The perpetrator has the right to confront his accuser. Wrong. Not when the accuser is deceased. C. The witness, Jessica, is deceased. They must really think people are stupid to believe that kind of bullshit. When it's murder, the victim is deceased. Also, Curtis Smith has fled Indiana. Here comes the kicker about the pathologist, Dr. John Kavanaugh. He was fired from Cook County, Illinois' medical examiner's office. Over 200 of his cases in Cook County, Illinois are being reinvestigated because he missed evidence on a case and it turned out to be a homicide. The pathologist's work in Marion County, Indiana, and his cases have or are being under review. That's all public record. Let's take a short pause for the cause, and when we return, it's an honor to have Diana Elliott join us on the show. A mother's fight for justice for her daughter, Jessica Elliott. We will be back in a moment. MJA would like to give a special shout out to the Corbin Connection comedy channel on YouTube. Mr. Corbin is a very funny man with his 3 alter egos. Once again, that's the Corbin Connection on the comedy channel on YouTube. Check it out. Thank you.
Tears come streaming down your face.
Welcome back to our Mja Podcast, the series, A True Conspiracy, Chapter 2, Part A, The Mysterious Death of Jessica Elliott. Joining us at this time is Diana Elliott, who is the mother of Jessica Elliott. This is her story and the uphill battle she has been fighting to seek justice for her deceased daughter, Jessica Elliott. Welcome, Diana, to the show, and how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
And how's the weather in good old Indiana?
It's starting to turn cold.
Okay, we're going to get right down to it because we have a lot of territory to cover. And is it hard knowing the 4-year anniversary of your daughter's death is coming up on December 30th, 2019, and you're still fighting to get her justice?
Yeah, it is. It's been very hard, very discouraging, that I can't even get anyone to even in authority to look at her case.
And with that in regard, have you reached out to media outlets to try to get your daughter's case out there to the public's eye?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And they just, when you bring up law enforcement and coroners, and they don't seem to want to do anything about that.
And knowing the evidence of your daughter's injury and the evidence against Curtis Smith, and nothing is being done by law enforcement, what is your first thought?
In my opinion, my first thought was a cover-up.
And can you tell our listeners what kind of person your daughter was?
She was kind-hearted, very giving, quiet and timid. This time of the year, Halloween was her favorite. She'd be going to the haunted trails and caves, and she's like a big kid. She has a lot of fun.
And were you and Jessica close?
Yes. We'd visit and talk on the phone, Facebook. She'd come to the house, spend the night. We'd talk and have a good time.
And can you tell us what kind of mother she was with her children?
Jessica, she was very loving. She loved her daughters very much. If they needed or wanted anything, she'd do without just so they could have. Every morning, she'd wake them up with a kiss and tell them she loved them for going to work. Basically, her daughters were her life.
And can you tell us what type of work she might have done?
She was a certified nurse aide. She worked at a nursing home. And the patients there, they loved her.
And are you close to your grandchildren?
Yeah, we're very close. They lived with me for a while after their mother passed away. They come to visit, and we talk on the phone, on Facebook. Yeah, we're very close.
And what made you come up with that page, Justice for Jessica Elliott, A Mother's Fight for Justice?
I'd been posting on Facebook and sharing my post every day. And I thought, well, I could make this Microsoft PowerPoint to email to people to make them aware of Jesse's case. It's short and to the point.
Before December 30th, 2015, was there any other issues or abuse concerning Curtis Smith?
Yeah, he had a girlfriend that had filed a domestic violence complaint on him. For he had strangled her, but the case was dropped because the prosecutor didn't pursue the case.
And do you think it's an insult the reasons the police give for not arresting Curtis Smith?
Yeah, it was an insult. I mean, because the detectives played on my ignorance of the law, because I later found out that the reasons for no arrest was pure lies. I mean, they had probable cause to arrest him for domestic assault and strangulation.
Okay. And Knowing that Curtis Smith misled the EMTs, the police, the hospital, saying Jessica overdosed on Xanax and none was found in her system, do you think that should be just cause to place him under arrest?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, he false informed to law enforcement, which is a crime, and to the hospital, which stopped her treatment of head injuries, which led to her brain death.
And is it public knowledge that Curtis Smith has very close ties to the Richmond Police Force and the County Sheriff's Department?
Yeah, it is. I mean, he has family that's in law enforcement, that was in law enforcement with the police and the sheriff's department. He has family employed in law enforcement, numerous family friendships in law enforcement. Yeah, that's well known.
And do you think the reason Smith hasn't been arrested is because of the law enforcement connection?
In my opinion, yes, I do. I mean, there was no arrest for domestic assault and strangulation, which allowed him to flee the state within the first week of my daughter's death. There was no further, which, led to no further questioning of evidence they got off of his cell phone, which the evidence they got off his cell phone proved him to be deceptive in his statements about the incident. So, yeah, I think it had a lot to do with it.
And do you think Smith should be charged with domestic abuse with serious bodily injury causing a death?
In my opinion, yes, I do.
And is it true Curtis Smith was taping him and Jessica arguing, and due to the circumstances, it is more evidence against him?
Yes, he did tape them, and the videos prove that statements made about the incident were all false. And he also admitted to strangling Jessica on one of the videos.
Is it true that the brain injuries to Jessica was found after they done a CAT scan?
Yes.
And isn't it refreshing to know that a nurse trained as a forensic nurse done their job correctly?
Yes, it is. I mean, she got the case opened on Jessica's injuries and her death, which if she hadn't have called the Richmond, Indiana Dispatch and Police Department, there would not have even been a case opened.
Listen, folks, it's not rocket science. It's not a mystery. Something bad happened to Jessica Elliott. Let's take a short pause for the cause, and we'll be back with more from our special guest, Diana Elliott. Be back in a moment. MJA would like to give a special shout out to the Happy Hour Restaurant at 42 Main Street in Wells River, Vermont. MJA and other groups like ours have eaten there several times. They also serve alcohol. The place is kid-friendly. The food is excellent and the service is Class A. The prices are very fair. Once again, that's the Happy Hour Restaurant in Wells River, Vermont. Check it out. Welcome back to our Mja Podcast, the series, A True Conspiracy. This is Chapter 2, Part A, The Mysterious Death of Jessica Elliott. We are on the line talking with Diana Elliott, who is the mother of the victim, Jessica Elliott. Diana, the photos of Jessica lying in the hospital bed, who took those photos that showed some of your daughter's injuries?
A forensic nurse.
And does the police have a copy of those photos?
Yes, they do.
Have you talked to other medical staff that was involved in the case or anyone you might have reached out to?
Yes.
And what was their opinion as far as your daughter's injuries?
Um, their opinion, or they gave me examples of the how she would have got these head injuries. I mean, the examples of, like being thrown off a motorcycle, an auto accident hitting a tree, or a bar fight with a baseball bat. That's the examples they gave me of her head injury. After the CAT scan, the attending doctor, the first thing that he had stated when they found her head injury was that Jessie was either hit in the head or she'd had a very hard fall.
And did they conduct that if she had fell off, let's say, the couch, that it would have caused that type of injury?
He didn't specify that. I mean, they didn't say off of a couch.
Okay.
He just said that she's had either she was hit in the head or she had a hard fall. But then again, then they said something about like being thrown off of a motorcycle, an auto accident, hitting a tree, and a bar fight with a baseball bat. That sounds something more than just falling off a couch.
Okay. The Marion County Coroner's Office conducted Jessica's autopsy, and Dr. John Cavanaugh was the pathologist. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Dr. Cavanaugh determined your daughter died from complications of two types of hematomas. Is that also correct?
Yes.
Is it true Dr. Cavanaugh ruled the manner of death of your daughter as undetermined?
Yes, he did.
And how do you think that Cavanaugh missed that your daughter's injury had to come from a physical altercation?
I think, in my opinion, that he intentionally made it sound like it was nothing serious. He had left out of the autopsy report that she had a cortical contusion, an impact site on her brain.
Listen, folks, in my experience, these injuries were caused by some type of blunt force trauma to the head. I have been involved in hundreds of death investigations of all types, and the brain injuries scream out blunt force trauma. Diana, and we covered this already, but these other medical staff was telling you how these injuries could have occurred, and did you do any further research on those type of injuries?
Yeah, I've been on head injuries. Yes.
Okay. And is it correct, the independent review on Dr. John Cavanaugh's cases, including your daughter's case, started in August 2018?
Yes.
And is it also correct that your daughter's review was completed on September 9th, 2018, and it stated no mistakes were found?
Yes.
Since Dr. Cavanaugh is being investigated in 2 states, do you think just a review that was done on Jessica's case was fair?
Jesse's review was not fair. The pathologist that performed this so-called review was involving Dr. Cavanaugh, the guy in question, in the review of his own work. The pathologist stated he found no need to view Jessie's evidence file, so he didn't even view her file to learn of the circumstances behind her head injury and body injuries. No, it was not conducted fair.
And using the Justice for Jessica Elliott page, can you tell us some of the PowerPoints you have against Dr. Cavanaugh?
He was involved in a lawsuit, Finnegan versus Myers, where he deliberately and in bad faith omitted critical information from an autopsy report, which landed the family in jail. He was in a conspiracy with the welfare department against the family, and come to find out it wasn't the family that had anything to do with their daughter's death.
And what are some of the PowerPoints you have against law enforcement and the prosecutor's office?
Hold on for a minute, I'm getting there. Wait, I can't get to my own PowerPoint. Hold on. Well, for the first thing, they didn't make an arrest for strangulation and domestic assault. It took them 4 months to question possible witnesses, and that's after I had to keep telling them if, they had to question the neighbors as possible witnesses. They waited 21 days to get evidence off of the boyfriend's cell phone. They never questioned the attending physicians about Jessica's head or body injuries, which, they're supposed to. They were accused by the coroner's office of not working with the coroner's office and giving them information that they needed. One of the detectives had put false statements on his report that I had stated to him, which I'd never met this detective throughout my daughter's whole case. They stated that the boyfriend didn't have no police records, when in fact he does. And there's more to go. I mean, they didn't put names on their report of people that they questioned, which, in a report you're supposed to put down the names of the people that you question so they could be possibly called to a courtroom.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some of the stuff, yeah.
And if it was investigated properly, do you feel it would place reasonable doubt in your daughter's cause of death and the manner of her death?
Yes, it would.
Is it true the police on the scene of the incident never made out reports until after the forensic nurse from the hospital contacted them about Jessica's injuries?
Yes, that's true.
And what do you think that is when you're called to a situation like that and they don't put nothing down on paper?
Yeah. Well, the forensic nurse had called the dispatch and had asked for Jesse's case number because she had figured that they had made out reports, and the dispatcher told her that they thought it was a drug overdose, so they left it at that and didn't make out any reports. They took it as a drug overdose.
And is it true you want your daughter's case to be reviewed again?
Yes, I do, and by someone that's not associated with the pathologist involved, to learn of their deception in my daughter's case.
And do you think they should take into account the suspect's statements and the medical record findings?
Yes, I do, and all the evidence in her case file.
And would you be happy with a death inquest or a grand jury to hear your daughter's case?
Yes, I would, very much.
And can you tell us how many other family members are deeply affected by Jessica's death?
There's many family members, her aunts, uncles, great aunts, great uncles, cousins, great cousins. There's numerous family members that can't believe what's going on with her case.
And did you know from day one that Curtis Smith had something to do with your daughter's injuries?
My opinion is yes. There is no doubt in my mind about that.
And having all the documented evidence that you have, does that fuel your fire to keep pushing forward?
Yeah, it does. In my opinion, I can prove deception in my daughter's case against the people involved in her case.
And with that being said, do you feel the documented evidence will someday make someone in power to take notice?
Yeah, I do believe that. If I can find that one person, that will be her case.
And do you feel there is enough evidence on the pathologist and the chief deputy coroner that worked on Jessica's case that they conspired with statements that they gave?
In my opinion, yes, I do.
In a perfect world, what would you like to see happen concerning your daughter's death?
Does the truth in her case be revealed, and her case go before a grand jury? By all rights, it should have went to a grand jury.
Thank you, Diana, for coming on the show. It was an honor to hear your story. We hope to gain some traction on the case and find a way to add more pressure onto law enforcement and onto the prosecutor's office. On December 30th, 2015, 37-year-old Jessica Elliott, a mother of two, died by the hands of another. Please share this story. I want to thank your listeners, and once again, special thanks to Diana Elliott for coming on the show. Remember, her page is Justice for Jessica Elliott, A Mother's Fight for Justice. It's well worth the read and factual details. The link on the page will be in the details section of this podcast. You can catch our Mja Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Porchlight International, Unsolved Mysteries, and our Mja Web-Site. I have a quote for our listeners. What happens is not important as how you react to what happens. Ellen Glasgow. Always remember, folks, if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised of what you might find. That's the end of our Mja Podcast, the series A True Conspiracy, Chapter 2, Part A, The Mysterious Death of Jessica Elliott. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Mark. I was your host for tonight's show. MJA says to all of you, good night from Plattsburgh, New York.
All my friends are heathen, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. Welcome to the rooms of people who have rooms for people that they love one day docked away. Just because you check the guns at the door doesn't mean the brains will change from hands grenade. You'll never know a psychopath sitting next to you. You'll never know a murderer sitting next to you. You'll think how we get here.